Hi, friends. Welcome back to The Common Good. If you joined us at the last segment, you know that's the new Tomlin tune. It's not. My name is Ian Simkins, normally joined by Brian Fromm, but he's in Florida, so we're calling this the Week of Ian's Friends, and I'm so thrilled to have friend, brother, mentor, Dr. Warren Anderson, director of the DeMoss Center for Worship and the Performing Arts at Judson University, not on the phone, not via Skype, in flesh, in the studio, incarnate, right here.
In the house.
In the house, my friends, talking about a topic that I'm really passionate about, but you're both passionate and educated in, which is why I think we've always just really enjoyed each other. And toward the end of the last segment, you were talking about this idea of our insecurity as churches and how often it's our insecurity that can lead us to places organizationally, theologically, that aren't actually helpful and maybe don't look that much like Jesus. Can you talk to us a little bit more about some of those insecurities and where they lead us, particularly as it pertains to worship and the worship experience?
Yeah, and I think you go back and you start with the seeker sensitivity movement.
Uh-huh.
And in doing so, my goodness, you give them all the props that should accompany a major shift that was born out of a desire to see people come to know the Lord.
Right.
No problems, no issues with the motivation at all. And the major churches in our area who have been seeker-sensitive churches, you know, some of them have gone through some difficult times of late.
Right.
But there have been all kinds of voices who have stood up in the midst of that and said, yes, what happened here was very bad, but let's not discount along the way the thousands of souls who are in the kingdom now who were not before, who found the Lord here.
That's huge.
So we give props to the seeker sensitivity movement. At the same time, I think eventually we have to critique it a little bit for its abandoning of all things, jettisoning anything that smacked of traditional Christian church culture and worship, because we have thrown out the baby with the communion water, as it were, and we have been left with a very exciting Sunday morning, a very technologically sophisticated Sunday morning, a very precisely timed and ordered with the producer in your ear saying the prayer has to end in 5, 4, 3, in all of this.
Right.
And these things are not evil in and of themselves, but I really don't believe at the end of the day they help in a large-scale fashion parishioners who are there. And so we abandon certain words in the titles, and we change the names of our churches. We remove crosses from buildings. We no longer have choirs. We take away pew Bibles because they're up on the screen. And all of it, it seems to me, in a well-intended, at one level, desire to make people feel comfortable.
Yeah.
But what we fail to understand in that, and I've used this example before, I think we give non-Christians very little credit for having brains. If a non-Christian stumbles into a building with a steeple on its roof,
Right.
a building that has the name church in its title, isn't it likely that non-believer expects there to be something churchy about the experience and is not looking for all the bells and whistles that he or she can find on Netflix or at the bar or at a light show or laser tag or whatever? I think an unbeliever walks into that church saying, God help me, I know all about my culture. I don't want something that caters to that culture. I want something that transcends that culture.
Wow.
Now, they won't use that language, of course, but in their souls, that's what they're looking for. And if they've got freshly brewed coffee, great. That's fine. If the singing is good, great. But what they're looking for is the kind of experience that will transform their lives, that will help them realize what they don't have, because they know what they don't have.
Right.
If they've gotten to the point where they're walking in there, they know that.
Yes.
They might not be able to articulate it as theologically beautifully as those of us with degrees would do, but they know.
Yeah.
And why do we think we have to entertain them when what they want is a healing balm that, quite frankly, doesn't always come with a bunch of upbeat music and a slickly produced video and a 45-minute sermon and everything that comes as part of most of our contemporary worship these days.
Which would then sometimes include things like lament, I imagine, or dare I say, silence, or some of what I often find in my tradition that we buck against anything that reeks of quote-unquote tradition or liturgy, right? Sometimes those things can be so demonized. And I imagine just listening to you, we probably have audiences on either side of a reaction right now. Some are standing up and cheering in their chairs, and if you're driving, please don't do that. But they're hearing Warren and they're saying, yes, absolutely. I imagine other people are hearing this thinking, what the heck is he talking about? I've never heard anyone go after those types of things with that kind of fervor. Like, what would you say to the people looking for a way forward? Like, okay, I'm maybe somewhere in the middle. I've never thought deeply about how we order our service or what I'm even looking for. Yeah.
Start there.
Start by thinking deeply.
Start by thinking deeply, please. Start there. Go get education if you have the opportunity to do so. Go, if you can't pony up for a master's degree or a doctor's degree, go to any number of worship conferences that are ubiquitous. Worship Leader does one, Lifeway Worship does one, Sovereign Grace does one. There are all kinds of just go. So you're not a worship leader, you're not a musician, but you want to know more about worship, go. Get more education, read books, read Bob Weber. He's got 800 books out there. Pick one. Any of them will be great.
Yes.
Get some more information and then help those in your leadership understand how desperately important it is that there are specific reasons for everything that you do on Sunday morning, and be intentional about them, and be intentional about leaving things out in order to let other things stay in.
Oh, that's good.
Silence is a great example. Good grief, we are so frenetically paced in our average church service. If the Lord wanted to speak to us, he couldn't because we got so much going on.
We crossfade everything into everything else, right?
Exactly, yeah. All right, put the Lord in, cue him up slowly. Okay, very good.
He comes in with the fog, I think, is that.
Yeah, exactly, right. So, it's that kind of thing. I just think we get, and no one means evil by this.
Not at all.
Nobody means to do something, but what we end up with is an experience that, boy, tickles our senses and keeps us entertained, but at a very significant level, I think, often, not always, but often misses heart connections that could happen if we were just thinking a little bit more strategically about what Sunday morning might look like.
Are you sure that you're not a preacher?
Yes.
I feel like Dr. Warren Anderson just took us to church. All right, well, coming up next, I want to talk about, I'm going to call this the Nickelback effect. Why so much of our contemporary worship songs sound so much alike, this pattern and structure that we so easily fall into, and see if maybe there isn't some layers beneath why we keep seeing that happen, and maybe a way forward, both as a little C and big C church. That's coming up next on The Common Good on AM 1160. Hope for your life.